Thank you. Good night. Had a great time. Thanks for tuning in. Stevie Coyle here at Mighty Fine Guitars in bucolic Lafayette, California. Nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in to the Friday noontime webcast. A few guitars to show you today. And please, always feel free to ask questions if there's stuff you see on the inventory. And since most of you are viewing us on a computer or an electronic device of some sort, you can always trot on over to mightyfineguitars.com and take a look at the inventory there. See if there's anything you'd really like to hear me play. I'm planning to play for you today a Gibson guitar, a Doerr guitar, a Tom Doerr guitar, a Tony Yamamoto guitar, and a guitar built by a gentleman named Francisco Martinez that is like nothing you've ever seen before. But that's the teaser. That'll come up in a little bit. Tell me, how are the... Oh, you know what? There's a fan going in here. Give me just a moment here. Let me kill the fan. Probably help the sound a little bit. I've had the fan on today because it's about 1,000,000% humidity, and acoustic guitars in the presence of 1,000,000% humidity sound about this big. The sound goes out this far and it drops off like that. But I think the microphone will hear. Is the sound good? Somebody punch in if the sound is too loud, too soft, too anything. It should sound like me, and we can't fix that, but we can fix the volume and whatnot. So let's start with a Gibson that just walked in the door. This Gibson literally just walked in the door a little while ago. People come into my shop, and because there's a lot of guitars that are built by small builders, a lot of small builders stuff. There's the occasional Martin, the occasional Gibson, the occasional Santa Cruz and Collings, kind of the big production houses and the smaller production houses, but vastly mostly in here, it's the really small builder that's featured. And we'll be featuring one of those with the Tom Doerr guitar that's coming up here momentarily. But this one just walked in. Here's a Gibson. Folks come in. There are so many folks, gentlemen primarily, let's face it, of a certain age, let's face it, that walk into a guitar shop, and they think, I'm going to see some great Gibsons and Martins and stuff. And there are shops where you can do that. In fact, I got a couple of Martins here that are ridiculous. I got a 37 D18, and I've got a 1905 0042. Sorry for those of you that are not guitar geeks. The geeking will be profound today, I'm afraid. This is a Gibson guitar. This is the sound, the J200, as giant as a guitar as it is. And take a look at the size of this bad boy. That's a super jumbo, the SJ200. This one's a little different from other J200s in that the back and sides are not mahogany or maple. Back and sides on this one are this beautiful koa. Check it out. Eesh, very pretty. It's got, sonically, it's a bit more towards the mahogany end of things, sonically, like I say, rather than the maple end of things, just because those are the two standard J200 flavors, are the maple flavor and the mahogany flavor. This one is sonically a bit more towards the mahogany end of things, but it still has that J200 sound. As big a guitar as it is and as much bass as it has, it doesn't have that huge, cascading, thunderous bass that a Martin guitar of similar air volume inside the guitar would have. It's got this kind of evenness and compression across it that recording engineers love and have loved for decades and decades now, since the 50s. In a recording studio, it's been my experience more than once that sometimes playing rhythm guitar, the engineer will come out after hearing your guitar played through, oh, excuse me, fish tacos. No, that was a message from the stratosphere. There we go. That engineers will come out and say, you know, it sounds great. Could sound a whole lot better if you played our guitar, which frequently is a Gibson J200 because it's got that sound of a rhythm guitar. I'll play a little rhythm guitar on this here J200. Spruce top, mahogany neck, bound Ivoroid fingerboards, and koa. Beautiful backstrap on this thing too. I don't know if you can see can you see the backstrap? Folks, personing the camera today as usual is Shigor, Mistress of the Machines, my own ducky, Miss Valerie May. Thank you, Miss Valerie. Can you see the backstrap? Have I got the angle correct here? Can you zoom in on that a little bit? Really pretty. Now, of course, you don't see that too much when you're playing, but what the heck. So, just for the sound of things, And this is where I'll count on you sound experts out there to tell me whether or not the sound is getting overdriven by this, because I'm going to play loud. The guitar does automatically what studio techniques strive to do for a lot of rhythm guitar. It's got its own compressor. A compressor will take the highest and the lowest volume sounds and kind of squash them into a narrower range, so the whole guitar sounds more even. The highs aren't quite as high, the lows aren't quite as low. It kind of tends to bump up the sound in a mix. This guitar does that anyway, just out in the air with no electronics applied at all. You can hit it hard to a certain point, but past that point it doesn't really get louder, which is that compression factor kicking in. It's got this beautiful kind of saturation, great rhythm guitar. So if you're a strummer, consider a J200. Consider this J200 because it's for sale. Intonates really well. Action is really forgiving. These are medium strings on here. They feel like lights just because the action is so nice. All the way up. An easy play. So it's a J200. It does what a J200 is supposed to do, which is really kind of saying something. I don't think I'm the only person in the world who would assert that Gibson, for the past few decades, has been somewhat uneven, shall we say, in their production standards. You know, sometimes you pick up a Gibson and it'll sound like a great old Gibson, and sometimes you pick up a Gibson and think, oh my, what an unfortunate guitar. Good heavens. The fret ends are sticking out, the fit and finish aren't quite where you'd expect a Gibson to be. It's widely and wildly variable. This is a very Gibson-y Gibson, not to get tautological about it. Etc. Handles alternate tunings really well. This is Dad Gad. Gibson J200. Any questions? Do we have any questions, Ducky? Any commentary? Great, great. For those of you tuning in after the fact, we're recording this. This is being webcast on Friday the 29th. Is that correct? 28th. Isn't this one of the signs of incipient senility is you don't know what the date is? I haven't known for decades. So it's the 28th. So if you're watching the program after that, please realize that I'll not be able to respond to your questions in real time. Moving on. Now also in the big body realm, Tom Doerr is a wonderful builder. Doesn't build a whole lot of guitars, but he's one of the kind of real high echelon builders out there. And when a Doerr comes up for sale, people's ears perk up, literally and figuratively. And a Doerr walked in the door the other day. A gentleman I've known for years and years said, I'm just not playing it. That's the story with so many of the instruments in this shop, is that people have other guitars that they do play, or they're moving from guitar to some other instrument. Their initial musical interest in guitar is morphed into, in this case, hand percussion. He's playing hong these days. This little metallic instrument, looks like a little flying saucer, and makes little bell-like tones. Really cool. Check it out on YouTube if you're not hip to a hong, H-A-N-G. And wow, remarkable instrument. But all of which is to say, that means he brought in his Tom Doerr guitar in beautiful shape to be sold. And give me just a second, I'll grab that for you. Why, here it is. Here's the Tom Doerr. It's Brazilian rosewood, back and sides. Quite astonishing. Can you see that landscaping on the side there? Remarkable. I've mentioned before that I always like to, I'm talking into the mic, that I always figure, one of the important parts of the guitar, they're all important, but this bit that you look at a bunch as a player, that's kind of important. Look at what you get to look at here. Now, I think the gentleman, if I recall correctly, the gentleman who brought this in said that Tom Doerr, D-O-E-R-R, DoerrGuitars.com, I believe, but you can certainly Google up Tom Doerr, D-O-E-R-R, to see what he's up to online. I believe the gentleman who brought this in said that Tom had never done a sound port before, but Tom did a bunch of research and decided that this was the optimal size and shape for a sound port. The whole idea of a sound port, the science isn't all in yet. In the same way that the science had not been in for a long time on those devices that vibrate the daylights out of your guitar to keep them sounding good, or to make them sound better, to keep the guitar active while you're not playing it. Tone Right is one of the primary purveyors of that style of technology. The science is coming in on that, and it's kind of proving what we all knew for a long time, that the more you play a guitar, which is to say the more that it gets vibrated at a fairly high level, the better it ends up sounding. So this is kind of one of those things too. The sound port, there are various theories. Some folks say that the sound port lets you hear, that it's primarily about letting the player hear the guitar more. Well, in a sense, yes, but most of the sound of a guitar doesn't come out of the sound hole. It comes off the lower bout. The lower bout is essentially a big speaker. That's this part of the guitar right here. Forgive me, those of you that are way ahead of the game here and know all this stuff already. Most of the sound of a guitar comes off the lower bout. Some of it comes out of the sound hole, and some of it comes out of these sound ports up here, and these are beautifully finished. Look at that. Can you zoom in on that at all, Ducky? I'll try and hold the guitar nice and still. Sometimes a sound port is just a hole kind of carved in the side of the guitar. Tom has gone to the extra trouble of lining these beautifully. It's exquisite work all the way around. This is kind of one of those guitars built by angels. While you're zoomed in there, Ducky, can you get a shot of the back of the neck here and see that center strip that goes up there? Mahogany neck, but a beautiful center strip. More Brazilian rosewood on the face and back of the headstock. Goto tuners there. I think these are the 510 Deltas. Yeah, the Delta series, 510, right, exactly. Fantastic.
What year is it?
I believe, Josh, that it's a 2013, I think. I'm not sure. I have to look that up, actually. But again, being able to see this while you're playing is a real treat. Good heavens. And back to the science of it, some of it is so the performer can hear it. And in fact, some singer-songwriters really don't want a guitar with sound ports in them, or a sound port anywhere on the upper bout and the lower bout. There's various places that are being experimented with as well by different builders. Some singer-songwriters don't want that because it interferes with what they're accustomed to hearing as they sing. But in this case, I think it was best explained to me, and I wish I could remember who was telling me this. The sound port, what it tends to do is release more of the long, low frequencies in a different axis from the standard straight out from the guitar axis. And it kind of acts like a sort of like a subwoofer. Low frequencies tend to be omnidirectional. They tend not to be directional. High frequencies are very directional, which is why on your home stereo, your home theater system, perhaps, you've got a box that lives in a corner on the floor or under the sofa or something, because those bass frequencies don't need to be heard from a particular direction. They tend to radiate at wide angles. Well, if you're hearing the bass frequencies in particular, the low end, which is not terribly low, admittedly, on a guitar, from various angles, you're hearing the different sources reach your ears at a microsecond apart from each other, which gives the impression that the guitar is a lot bigger than it is. You're getting that sort of surround sound where different speakers in your home theater system are firing sounds, often ambient sounds, at slightly different times. So you're hearing them at a slightly different time. Tricks the brain into thinking they're coming from a greater distance or are bigger than they are. Wow. This is the modern sound. When people talk about a very modern sounding guitar, I think this is what they're talking about. Big in every respect, lots of overtones getting generated. I'll swing this into an alternate tuning here in a while just to see what it does. I haven't done that myself yet. I remember years ago seeing Leo Kottke play, and he just kind of got into a riff somehow and just kept playing it. He said, you know, sometimes this is enough. This is for me. I'll be right back with you folks in a little while. This is one of those guitars you can just kind of strum and be amazed by for quite a long while before you launch into anything. And this is one of those guitars, I've mentioned before, there are several in here, that the volume actually gets louder on the bass strings a moment after you hit the string, instead of the string being hit and instantly the sound decaying. This one, if you leave your fingers off the guitar, are playing another note of the same kind. I'm holding an A note at 32 there, 3rd string, 2nd fret, and this note is picking up that resonance and just kind of running away with it. Oh, I hope this is getting in there. Hello, are you hearing this? Very flat fingerboard, really comfortable neck, 1 3/4 across the nut there, but feels slender because the back has got kind of a, it's not quite a full D shape, it's a slightly open C, I'd say, but it's got kind of a fast electric-y feel to it in a sense. This guitar is miles deep. This is one of those guitars that would take you a while just to play it, to find out all the things it can do. It just goes and goes and goes. This guitar will not suit everyone, but if you're looking for that big, super resonant sort of sound, it just does that remarkably well. And it's fantastically beautiful. I'm not sure I showed you the back. There's some Brazilian rosewood. It's a gentleman was in earlier, Josh Isaacs, good pal of the store and the photographer of all of the shots taken, nearly all the shots taken on mightyfineguitars.com was in, and noticed peering in through the sound ports that at the bottom here, this guitar has been rigged with a jack for a pickup system, but there is no pickup system inside there, which is kind of smart. Whoever did that, I wonder if Tom did that, figuring I'd rather do it myself. Total guess on my part. But I'm wondering if he said I'd rather do that myself than have somebody else do it. The top is moon spruce. Moon spruce is a Swiss spruce, and if I understand the story correctly, and it's a lovely story, terribly romantic and true. I think if you ask any luthiers that build violins, they'll tell you about moon spruce. It's spruce that is harvested at the new moon, which means that, check this out, that the sap from the spruce tree is down in the roots. So harvesting the tree, getting much less sap because of the new moon has pulled it all down into the roots. I believe that's true. I think I've got that story straight. And this is beautiful, very tight-grained white spruce. Gorgeous stuff and hugely resonant. Ebony appointments, ebony trim around the rosette here, along the body, along the fingerboard. Quite remarkable. I'll shut up and play. Truly remarkable guitar. Guitars for sale here at Mighty Fine Guitars, $8,000 American dollars, and it's yours. And speaking of that, if there are any guitars on the website, any guitars you see me here playing today, or from any of the other webcasts, if the guitar hasn't sold, if it's still here, I'd be happy to demo anything for you on Skype or FaceTime. It's easily done these days. We can use the good mic here. You can sort of hear, this is a nice stereo rig. If any of you are listening on headphones, you should be getting a nice stereo image there. You can really sort of hear what the guitars are like. And when I ship guitars, you've got 48 hours, and if you need more than 48 hours to kind of check out a guitar, it's a very standard kind of procedure. The guitar arrives, you've got 48 hours to play it. If you love it, I cash the check that you've sent me. If you don't, you send it back and pay shipping both ways. No harm, no foul. Bob's your uncle. And that's the business end of how guitars get shipped. It's just that simple. I'm going to try a little alternate tuning. Tuning is really fun. Wow, it just roars. forgotten how to play that. I should learn that. Well, I'm going to leave that one in this tuning and play it later on. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole and start buying guitars out of my own shop, but if I was, wow. Tom Doerr. Oh, Ducky, can you zoom in and get a... I'll see if I can get a little light on the inside of the guitar there. Lattice brace back. Instead of just straight braces across, this is lattice braced, and it sets up a whole different set of vibes going on. Braced very lightly, really skinny, thin, little popsicle stick size braces sitting up there, doing their job really, really well. And impeccable work. This is one of those ones, there's not a little blob of glue here, there's not a little thing out of line there. It's a peach. Great stuff. Beautifully compensated bridge. The bridge pins are inlaid. Gorgeous thing. Did you get a good shot, Ducky?
Best I could.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's press on, shall we?
Do you want to play something spooky for Halloween?
Something spooky for Halloween. Yeah. Wonder what that would be. Well, I can show you something strange and startling. In this coffin case here, this is an instrument that is a storied instrument. There's a story behind this. And the story is that years ago, a gentleman came in selling cigar-box ukuleles. This isn't a uke, of course. Cigar-box ukuleles. There was a gal in the shop who said, I'd like to buy that one for my relative as a birthday present. She did, and at the time said, you know, I'd like to, would you consider making a guitar for me? Well, the instrument, 3 years later, is made. And whether or not it, whatever happens to it from here, I just wanted to make sure you saw it. Kind of a coffin-style case. The request was that the guitar be built with Big Sur in mind, Big Sur, California, right on the coast, the outfall of a river, a beautiful big famous bridge going across the highway. The highway crosses a beautiful bridge through the Bixby Bridge, the Pacific Ocean, you know, fantastic forested area. So on the top of the case, lift with your legs, Coil. Can you see the tree on the top there, Ducky? There's a redwood tree depicted on the top. The side is admittedly a bit Halloween. It's a bit coffin. How do you put it politely? But inside is where things get really interesting. It has these leather straps that secure the top to the bottom. And inside, lift the gold latch. Here's the Big Sur guitar. It's electric, and it's astonishing. This gentleman builds cigar-box instruments, folk art in a sense, but it's a player as well. This guitar actually plays, and quite well. A beautiful old Partagas, a cigar box with electronics, 2 flavors of electronics, not just one, 2. Piezo pickup under the bridge of piezo, and DiMarzio electric pickup here that can be mixed. And, of course, here you have, let me know if I get too much flash in the camera there, Ducky. But here you've got the ocean, you've got the shoreline, you've got a piece of, I think, that the bridge is perhaps abalone, sealed in hard plastic. There's another redwood tree depicted here. There's a whale right there. There's a humpback whale depicted. Up and down the fingerboard is abalone and various different types of shell. A little tough to see, but here on the neck, you've got that waterfall depicted that flows out under the Bixby Bridge there. Waterfall cascading down into the ocean, and at the end here you've got a wave. How about that? Spurts of locking tuners in blue, and yet another redwood tree on the back. Big Sur inlaid, and another inlay at the very top. What does it say? I've forgotten. Oh, MTZ Guitars. That's the gentleman who built the guitar. Francisco Martinez, MTZ Guitars. And this one, I don't have a worthy amplifier in here, but I suspect with the stuff that's in it, it probably sounds pretty good and pretty versatile. You can get solidly electric sounds out of it and some acoustic-y sounds as well. I would have been remiss if I had not shown you this guitar. Strange and startling stuff comes into Mighty Fine Guitars. A beautiful Gibson J200 walked in this morning. This walked in last night just before closing. And it is an astonishment. I'll keep you up to date on the progress and the story, the ongoing story of the Big Sur guitar. And I had a request last time to play a baritone guitar for you. And Tony Yamamoto just came in and kind of scrubbed up one of his beautiful guitars. I'll be right back. It's right over here. Hey, where are you all from anyway? That's always an interest. If you wouldn't mind typing in where you're from, it's always interesting to see where these webcasts go and who spots them. And if you've got any questions, fire away. Now, a baritone guitar is tuned down, really long scale, 27-inch plus scale on this one. And tuned down so that you can use all of your same chord shapes. It's just as if you took a regular guitar and tuned it down a whole bunch, except that the strings are heavier and the scale length is longer to accommodate that in a way that's going to be much more successful than just taking a regular guitar and tuning it way, way down. Even if you string it heavier, there are considerations about the circumference of the strings and the length of the string against the fret and how it intonates. This guitar is maximized for low tuning, which is not to say low tuning, alternate tuning. Standard tuning is just fine, just way low. So this down here, instead of being an E string, is a B below E. So you got B to B instead of E to E. Baritones frequently, a lot of baritones, I wouldn't even attempt using a flat pick because they tend to saturate so much, it tends to get really mushy. A lot of baritone work that I've heard is fingerstyle because the articulation can be really cool. Just to hear those notes stack up on each other and hear those overtones stack up on each other in a completely different range than you're accustomed to. A nice fresh part of your brain gets utilized. But often they saturate so much and are so low that articulation doesn't work. But on this one, being able to play something like that and being able to hear all of those notes. Baritones are big guitars too. They tend to be really big. This one makes it easier to be big, to have a big guitar in your lap, because the body is wedge shaped. Notice how much narrower the guitar is on this side, under your arm, than it is on that side, under your knee. The Manzer wedge, pioneered, I have heard, by Linda Manzer. And it's a great idea. It's a wonderful idea. You can make this side much fatter than it normally would be to preserve the amount of air volume inside the guitar. You're playing with the same amount of air volume, but just making the guitar lean into you a whole lot more. To add to the comfort, there's a bevel here that's nice soft bevel. So the face of the guitar is leaning back towards you, and you've got that bevel there. If that's not enough, there's another bevel at the chest. So there's no sharp edges kind of poking you, especially on a big guitar like this, where that's a real consideration. So many folks come in here saying, I've kind of outgrown my guitar, or rather, it's outgrown me. A big guitar is what we all had to have back in the 60s and 70s. There were dreadnoughts, and there were jumbos, and then there were girl guitars. All the other guitars were girl guitars. That one that Joan Baez played, that 0042, that was a girl guitar. We don't think that way anymore, for the most part. And but moving away from big guitars is what a lot of people are doing, just because they want to be able to sit on the couch and kind of veg out and play and sing and watch some sports or a movie or something, But having a big guitar can be easier nowadays because of technology like this. The wedge makes things a whole lot easier to have on your lap. The bevels keep this from digging into that sensitive nerve bundle on the inside of your elbow there. It's much easier. And having another bevel, like the breast, is kind of nice. It's not poking you in the chest while you're playing. So sitting on the couch, leaning back, yeah. To play on the left hand. Again, like the Gibson, a guitar that's well set up is easy to play. If you're finding that, oh man, I used to love playing this guitar, but it's just gotten hard to play, that's kind of part and parcel. One of the things that's never sort of been explained to a lot of folks is that your old Martin that used to be so much fun to play that now the action is really high and it's not so much fun to play. After 20, 25 years, almost every old Martin is going to need a neck reset. It's part and parcel of a dovetail joint. You've got all of that string pressure and humidity and dryness working against a wooden joint, a wood-on-wood joint, and the neck is going to pull this away. So after 20, 25 years, the guitar needs some kind of work for sure. Whether or not it's just a tweak on the truss rod if it has one, or a total neck reset, or some work on this bridge saddle for minimal moolah, you can have back the lovely guitar you bought all those years ago. You can have it back to kind of where it was, feeling-wise. There are lots of great luthiers out there. If you need a recommendation in your area, email me. I'll find you somebody. Just stevie@mightyfineguitars.com. Shoot me a note and we'll find somebody that can fix up your guitar and get you back to playing. So setup is important. When you buy a guitar as well, part of what should be factored in, I think, to your playing, especially, not to get snooty or anything, but at this level of building that's happening here in this shop, the builders that are represented here, that's kind of should probably be in your budget, is whatever you spend, budget another $75-$100 to get the guitar set up to your specifications, rather than saying, oh, I love the sound of this one, but it's a little tough to play. Easy enough to fix the tough to play part. Go for the sound you love, because for another very few dollars, you can have the guitar set up to your specifications just the way you like it. May take a few visits to the luthier. He'll take it down a little bit and say, is this good? Oh, I don't know, I could use a little bit more. And they'll creep up on that perfect setting for you and how it should feel. The amount of neck relief you need, depending on how hard you play or softly you play. Just a recommendation there, there's probably a guitar lurking around in your neighborhood, maybe even in your house, maybe even in the spare room there, that has not gotten played in a long time because the action has come up. That's part and parcel of a dovetail joint, which many guitars were made with years and years ago. More modern guitars, including this one, are made with a bolt-on, bolt-off neck. The connection is made metal to metal, so taking the neck off doesn't involve pulling a fret, drilling a hole, inserting a steam hose, melting glue, and all of that stuff. It's a much less drastic sort of situation to adjust, to actually fully reset a neck on a bolt-on neck these days. So, all of which is to say, don't let a few bucks and an easy fix, a relatively easy fix, stand between you and your great old guitar. If it needs a neck reset, that's part and parcel of owning a Martin. If you're the original owner of that Martin guitar, the one you got in college, that great old D35 that you got in college, and you are the original owner, Martin will fix it and reset the neck for you for free. So, at least they used to. I should look that up. Let me look that up before we put that in ink. Well, this is probably my cue to make my departure. I think I swallowed a bug. But anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. Stevie Coyle here at Mighty Fine Guitars. We do this every Friday. There's some great stuff coming in here soon. Some great stuff. Look online. We're finishing up our live season, but we'll be doing webcasts next Friday night. Check out the webcast. I'm losing my voice swiftly, so I'll make my departure. Thank you very much for tuning in. Stevie Coyle here. I'll see you next week. Bye, kids.